Greetings, I'm Dr. Faith Acker. If you're watching this video, you probably already know that, but just in case. Right now I teach at Southeastern Louisiana University. Most of this video is going to be one of those boring ones where you watch me search for stuff on library databases and using other internet resources, but I did want to start by talking a little bit about journals again, just so you can get another approach to journals in general. This video assumes that you've already watched my two other videos on using library databases, or that you've had similar training so that you're fairly comfortable with using library databases in general. Instead, in this video, we're going to be talking about subject-specific and field-specific journals, which can be something a little bit different. So, I thought I'd start off with this wonderful journal called College English. Now, this is a journal that's produced by the National Council for Teachers of English, and it's one that anyone can receive in the mail, kind of like a magazine, just by being a member of the National Council for Teachers of English. This was a copy that's sent to one of my colleagues. It comes out multiple times a year, and my colleague just receives it in the mail as one of the perks of her membership in a larger organization. Now, if you're watching this video, you probably are introduced to journals and databases through the process of attending an English class. And so it makes sense to you that English teachers who love journals and databases and reading stuff would love to get journals about things like how to teach English. Or I also get a journal called Renaissance Quarterly that's put out by the Renaissance Society of America. Lots of different people get journals and magazines by being involved in a professional field. And if you're going into a professional field that is going to require some type of membership or accreditation or certification, it's possible that you might also end up receiving copies of journals in the mail. My husband is a nurse, and he periodically gets in the mail a journal called the American Journal of Critical Care, which is a journal designed for nurses and other people who work with critically ill patients in hospital settings. Why does my husband need to get a journal the same way that I would get a journal called College English? Well, in his case, it keeps him abreast of the most recent and relevant issues in his field. What research have people recently done that might influence the way that he and the other members of his floor practice nursing on other people? It might talk about things like nurse burnout. It might talk about ways to interact with families sympathetically. And I'm pretty confident that some of the recent issues deal with topics related to COVID, which, as of this moment, as I'm recording this video, is still a pretty major issue, not only in nursing, but also in many other professional fields. So I just want to make you aware that journals aren't just something that exist in library databases. Instead, journals could be deeply relevant to your eventual professional practice. As you receive them in the field, they'll tell you what issues are most important to other people who are practicing in your same field. They'll give you opportunities to learn from people who have done studies and scholarship. And so, hopefully, if you're watching this video and you're about to participate in one of my assignments that involves field-specific journals, you'll get through this project an introduction to some of the most relevant journals in your anticipated field, and you'll begin to understand what types of things you should look out for in these journals and other professional documents.
Okay, so now you know, at least I've told you, that people who practice different professions often have field-specific journals that they might receive to stay abreast of problems and issues in their particular fields. Great. How do you, as a college student, find those journals? I'm going to give you two strategies for this today. And one is going to use Google because many of you use Google. And then the other, and I will say my preferred method, is to use the Southeastern Library Databases for reasons that I'll explain to you shortly. However, let's start with Google. It's an okay starting point. What I recommend not doing is starting just by typing in something like nursing journals. And one reason I recommend not just typing in nursing journals is that you can see that I have 939 million results, and it's going to be very difficult to narrow these down to figure out which particular results are reliable, which are peer-reviewed, which are presented by particularly useful organizations, and a whole host of other problems. Also, my biggest problem with searching for things on Google besides the fact that it can be harder to determine reliable sources, is that often by the time you get to an article that you find really exciting, you might discover that the journal wants you to pay for that article, and sometimes those prices are ridiculous and exorbitant. So, an important rule of thumb is that if you find an article that looks perfect and the journal wants you to pay for it, you should never pay for it. Instead, come back to the library databases, try to find it through Southeastern Louisiana University, and if you can't find it that way, get in touch with a librarian and see whether the librarian at Southeastern would be able to do an interlibrary loan or to find you a copy of that through the resources and the connections that Southeastern already has in place. So, what I would suggest instead of looking for nursing journals is looking for something like nursing organization journals. And if you look for nursing organization journals, you'll find journals that are related to organizations that are related to nursing. The American Journal of Nursing, the Western Journal of Nursing Research, the Journal of Healthcare Management, and a whole bunch of other ones. American Nurse. The one my husband subscribes to is the American Association of Critical Care Nurses, and they put out the journal called the American Journal of Critical Care. If you go there, you can see the front of the print copy, and you can actually view the articles in the January 2021 issue. And I'll just skim this. It's probably going to be a little bit difficult for you to see, but you can see that they have articles on patient care, on families, mental health factors, and other types of critical care. So this journal has a lot of different articles on it. It covers patient safety issues, different types of critical care, ways to care for patients, and some nursing journals will also include articles on things like how to protect yourself as a nurse to keep yourself from going crazy. There are lots of articles on mental health for nurses or health and safety for nurses, ways that the nurses can make sure their lives are more balanced both at work and away from work. You might think that nursing is a really easy field to have a lot of scholarship on, and you'd be right. There are dozens, if not hundreds, of critical journals. But I do want to show you it's not just nursing. So let's look at the Association of Welders Journal. This is put out by the American Welding Society, and every 6 weeks they put out the Welding Journal. And you can see a preview issue from this Welding Journal webpage, but if you want to actually view one of their full issues, you'll probably need to become a member of the American Welding Society. Here's the features in the February issue, which is their preview issue up on their website. I don't know what most of these mean, and I have just realized I can't pronounce all of these words, so I'm going to move on from the Welding Journal, but I do want you to know that many different major professional organizations, from very academic to ones that really rely heavily on cutting edge research, and all the way to more practical fields like welding, where the participants and the members would work very heavily with their hands. And all of these fields produce scholarship that filters down and is presented to members so that they can maintain best practices in their particular fields and interests, and also often safety. So you can absolutely use Google to find any of these types of sources. Just type in your desired career field plus association or organization plus journal and see what the top hits are. You'll probably find a lot of options. However, I think you'll pretty quickly run into some issues with accessibility of the problems, as with the Welding Journal, where we could only see one of the issues. Here's where the Southeastern Library Databases are really useful. You already know that I prefer the Southeastern Louisiana University databases to Google when I'm trying to find articles, and that's largely because of cost. I can't afford to pay $40 or $50 or $100 for a single article when I sometimes want to look at 10 or 20 articles in a day. You probably can't afford that either. So, the technique I'm going to show you today is one that uses advanced searches, and it works with the Southeastern Quick Search if you go into the actual search page, but we're going to run it through Academic Search Complete. You might be familiar with the basic search, which works a lot like a Google search. You just type in whatever you want to type in. It's very important that you actually use the tab called Advanced Search today, because you won't be able to do this technique if you're just running a basic search. Let's go back to welding. We already know that there are professional journals just devoted to the study of welding. So we want to look for welding articles, and Particularly, we probably want to look for recent ones, so we could certainly put in a date range if we wanted. I'm going to leave that out today because it's not pertinent to the technique that I'm going to show you. The other thing is, though, if I search just welding, just like a basic search, it's going to return every single article anywhere in any Southeastern database that mentions welding even once. I actually want to limit to professional welding journals. So once I've typed in welding, I want to look for journals that have the word welding in their titles. I'm going to select journal name contains the word welding from my drop down symbol. I can do this with anything. I can do this with nursing. I can do this with English. I can even do this if I know a specific title. If you want to know, does college English go through EBSCOhost? It does. You can just type in college English. But in this case, we're going to look and see what welding journals we can find. What I have now is 2,000 articles published in journals where the name of the journal contains the word welding. And I do want to tick scholarly peer-reviewed journals to make sure that I'm looking only at scholarly journals. It should be the same if I'm looking for things with a journal name, but that will just double check it. And so you can see, let me zoom in a little bit. I hope you can see that the top journal here is called Welding Equipment and Technology. If you go down a little bit, there's a lot more from Welding Equipment and Technology. In fact, this seems to be the primary journal to which Southeastern subscribes. Here's Science and Technology of Welding and Joining, more from that particular journal. And what I would do if I were you is I would just read down the list of results, look in the citation details for each one for those journal names, and look for a journal that sounds kind of exciting, kind of fun, kind of different, kind of relevant to you. You might have to do this a few times. Read through the names of journals in your field that come up when you run that basic search. It's also possible that the search term you pick won't have a journal with that particular word in the name. So if you search something like flight attendant, there are no international journals of flight attendant studies. You may need to try some other keywords like pilot or aeronautics to get that particular one. And something that's really cool about the Southeastern databases, and this works for every database. This works for JSTOR, for ProQuest, for EBSCOhost, and actually it works just for Southeastern basic searches as well. All you have to do to find out what's in the Journal of Welding Equipment and Technology is click on any article from that journal. So we're just going to click on Mechanical Properties, Structure, and Fracture Behavior of Additive Manufactured FFF-ABS Specimens. I don't know what any of that means, but it sounds really cool. When you click on that article, it will take you to a page that gives you all the citation details, and you're used to this. You could cite this using the authors, the title, the name of the journal. Here's the year, the volume, the pages, and then there are some keywords and the helpful abstract that tells you all about the way that fused filament fabrication works. Great. But what I want to show you today is that if you want just a picture of what's going on in the field of welding equipment and technology, if you come to this page, the journal name is always hyperlinked. And I showed you this for some of the sources in my last video when you were trying to figure out if something was peer-reviewed on JSTOR. But you can also just click on the journal and it will take you to the journal's homepage. So here I have all the publication details for Annals of the University, Dunarea de Yas of Galati, Fascicle 12, Welding Equipment and Technology. And you can see there's a lot of details about the publisher, the dates, the type of journal, the subject it covers. You can go to the publisher's website if you want. All that's useful and fun. Not really relevant today. What's maybe more important for this purpose is you can see on the right hyperlinks to all the issues and articles from as many years as Southeastern subscribes to. And the great thing about this is that unlike the ones on the American Association of Welders, these are all available to you for free because Southeastern has already paid for them. So if I click on 2020, I can see a list of all the volumes of this journal that were published in 2020. And that's only one. So I know this is an annual journal. It comes out once a year. And I want to know what was published in 2020 on welding equipment and technology. So I click that and it brings me up to the search results of every article published in this journal in 2020. There's an article on material on additive manufactured thermoplastic parts. There's some on stimuli responsive polymers. I don't know what any of this means because I'm not really as up on my welding terminology as I am on my English literature technology. I'd probably do a lot better if I'd picked a nursing journal instead of a welding one to show you. But once you get here, you can see the subjects in the articles. And again, if you click on the article, you can read a little abstract that talks about the main ideas that they covered in the particular journal. That abstract is really helpful because you can use that to see whether you're particularly interested in reading about that. It might even tell you some of the problems that are raised in the course of the article. Some articles are descriptive, here's something we tried and it works better, and some articles try to solve existing problems. Nurses have lots of burnout, here are some techniques that are used to help them. So what I would do if I were you is come in to EBSCOhost, search for journals with the name of your field or your career or your interest in the title, and find the results that you have. If you found a journal on Google that you think sounds really exciting, it's also worth putting the name of that journal directly into EBSCOhost to see if Southeastern subscribes to that journal. I already know because I did this earlier that Southeastern does not subscribe to Welding Journal by the American Association of Welders, but I do know that Southeastern subscribes to College English. So if I didn't have the physical copy of College English that I showed you at the beginning of this video, I can search for College English and it will bring me up all the different articles published in College English as far back as Southeastern goes. So every search result that I have here should be in the journal College English. How convenient is that? So once you have a journal, if you don't want to just limit yourself to one particular year or one particular issue, you can come back to the same search page and just search journal name with the name of the journal that you're interested in. This is sort of a lot to throw at you all at once, so I'm going to stop this video here and encourage you just to play with the databases. Some databases will subscribe to different journals, so I have College English here through EBSCOhost. There are some journals that aren't available through EBSCOhost but are instead available through JSTOR. The same is true of ProQuest and many of Southeastern's other more specific databases. But my encouragement to you is to spend the next couple days just playing a little bit. Take some fields that you're interested in, particularly if you don't have a major or a perfectly chosen career yet, and just look at some of the journals that are available. Look at some of the topics that are covered in issues in those journals and see if you can find something that jumps out at you that seems kind of exciting. The best way to do this is probably just to skim the titles and maybe to skim the abstracts to see if any of these titles or subjects or articles sound exciting, and use those as a starting point for your own pursuit of additional knowledge. Send me an email if you get stuck or if you have questions or if you need additional help. Good luck. Happy searching.